Dream of the Red Chamber, 2nd Chapter Part 1. The Death of Lady Jia in Zhengzhou City. Lang Zixing's speech about the Rongguo mansion. But Feng Su heard the official call and came out to ask questions with a smile. The people only yelled, "Quickly bring out Master Zhen." Feng Su said with a smile, "My surname is Feng, not Zhen. My son-in-law is Zhen, who has been a monk for 12 years now. I don't know if you are asking him?" The officials said, "We don't know what's true or false. Since he is your son-in-law, I'll take you to present him to the grandfather." Everyone pushed Feng Su and went away. Everyone in the Feng family panicked, not knowing what was going on. At 2 o'clock, Feng Su came back, and everyone was busy asking the truth. The new grandfather's surname was Jie Hua, a native of Huzhou, who had been friends with his son-in-law. "I will explain the reason," the grandfather sighed with sadness, and asked the grandson's daughter. "I said, I lost the lamp." The grandfather said, "No matter, I will send someone to find it back." After talking for a while, he gave me 2 taels of silver before leaving. The mother of the Zhen family heard this and felt sad. There was no talk all night. The next morning, Yu Kun sent 2 letters of silver and 4 bolts of brocade to thank the Zhen family, and a secret letter to Feng Su, asking him to ask the Zhen family for a second wife. The first thing he did was to ask for a second wife. The company's main goal is to provide the best possible service to its customers. He also gave the Zhen family many gifts and ordered them to live on, pending a visit to his daughter's whereabouts. The first thing he said was that the girl, Jiao Xing, was the one who looked back at Yu Kun. The story is that the woman's life was a surprise. He was not expecting to have a son in just 1 year since he arrived at Yu Kun's side, and half a year later, his first wife suddenly died of an illness, so Yu Kun made her his wife. It is exactly, a casual visit makes you a man of the world. It turns out that after the silver gift from Shi Yin that year, Yu Kun left for the capital on the 16th, and was very pleased with the competition, winning the scholarship and being elected to the outer class. Although he was talented, he was greedy and insulted his superiors by his talent, and all of his colleagues looked at him with disdain. In less than a year, he was censured by his superiors, saying that he appeared to be talented, but was really cunning in nature. He was also accused of harboring corrupt servants and befriending gentry. He was so angry that he was ordered to be dismissed. Once the ministry document arrived, all the officials of the government were happy. The Yu Kun, although very ashamed, but the face is not a bit of resentment, is still smiling freely. After he had finished his official duties, he sent his family members and the eunuch's bag he had accumulated over the years to their hometowns and settled down, but he was on his own, touring the world's scenic spots. On that day, I happened to travel to Weizheng, and I heard that this year's salt administration was ordered by Lin Ru Hai. This Lin Ru Hai, whose surname is Lin, name is Hai and his epithet is Ru Hai, is a former scholar of the imperial examinations and has been promoted to the position of Grand Master of Lantai Temple. He is a native of Gasua and was appointed to be the salt inspector and has not been in office for a long time. The original Lin Ruhei's ancestors had also inherited the marquis, now to Ruhei, has been 5 generations. At first, only 3 generations, because of the current Longjinchend, additional grace, to Ruhei's father and inherited a generation, to Ruhe will be from the first origin. Although the family is a family of wealth, but is a family of books and fragrance. It is a pity that the Lin family is not prosperous, the number of people is limited, although there are several families, but in Ruhe are all cousins, not very close to the first family. Now Ruhe is 50 years old, only a 3-year-old son, and died last year, although there are several concubines, but the fate of no children, there is nothing to do. Only the first wife Jia was born a daughter, breast named Dayu, 5 years old, husband and wife love it like a jewel in the palm of their hands. See, he was born smart and handsome, also want to make him know a few words, but pretend to be an adopted son, to solve the desolation of the knee. After he recovered from a wind chill in a hotel, and because of the unsustainable expenses, he wanted a place to stay to rest his shoulders. The company's main business is to provide a wide range of services to the public. The female student was young and weak, and there was no limit to the amount of homework she could do, and there were only 2 maids to accompany her, so Yukan was able to recover from her illness. The student's mother, Mrs. Ji, died of an illness. The female student serves soup and medicine, observes funeral rites, and is too grief-stricken and weak, so her old illness returns and she does not attend school for some time. Whenever it was sunny and windy, he would go out for a walk after dinner. On this day, I happened to go to the countryside and wanted to appreciate the scenery of the village and the wilderness. When I came to a place surrounded by water and lush forest and bamboo, there was a temple with a tilted doorway and walls falling off. Next to the door, there is an old and broken couplet. Behind you there is nothing left to forget to retract your hand, before your eyes there is no way to turn back. Yu Kun looked at it and thought, although the text of these 2 lines is very simple, their meaning is deep. I have traveled to some famous mountains and temples, but I have never seen such words. Why not go in and visit? When I walked in, there was only an old monk, Long Zhong, cooking porridge there. When Yu Kun saw it, he did not care about it, and when he asked him a few questions, the old monk was deaf and faint, and his teeth were blunt, so his answers were not what he asked. Impatient, Yukan still withdrew and wanted to go to the village restaurant to drink 3 cups to help the wilderness, so he moved to walk here. When he entered the door of the restaurant, he saw one of the customers who were eating wine at the table. One of them got up and laughed, and came out, saying, "Wonderful encounter, wonderful encounter." Yu Kun was busy looking at him, but he was a man in the antique business in the city, surnamed Lang Zixing, whom he had met in the city in the past. Yu Kun praised Lang Zixing as a man of great ability, and this Zixing also borrowed Yu Kun's name as a gentleman, so the 2 of them got along very well. The 2 of them had a good understanding of each other. Yu Kun asked with a smile, "When did you come here?" "I didn't even know. It's a strange chance to meet him today." Zixing said, "I arrived home at the end of last year. Now I have to go to the capital, so I'm stopping by to talk to a friend of mine, and I'm grateful to him for staying with me for 2 more days. I have nothing urgent to do, so I will stay for a couple of days, and then I will leave at the half of the moon. Today, my friend had something to do, so I came here for leisure, and I didn't expect such a coincidental encounter." He said, "I'm here because I'm here, but I didn't expect to meet you by chance." He asked Yu Kun to sit down with him, and served wine and food. Yu Kun asked, is there any news in the city recently? Zixing said, there is no news, but there is a small incident in your clan. Yu Kun laughed and said, no one from my clan is in the city, why are you talking about this? Zixing laughed and said, you have the same surname, are you not one family? Yu Kun asked, whose family is it? Zixing laughed and said, in the house of Rongguojie, it is not a disgrace to your family. Yu Kun said, so it's his family. If we talk about it, the Han family has a lot of people. Since the Jiafu in the Eastern Han dynasty, there are many branches and provinces, so who can examine them one by one? If we talk about the Rongguo family, it is the same family tree. But he was so glorious that we were not able to recognize him, so we became more and more distant. Zixing sighed, old man, don't say that. Nowadays, the two houses of Rongning are not as prosperous as they were in the past. Yu Kun said, the two houses of Rongning and Ning were very populous, how come they are depressed? Zixing said, exactly, it's a long story. When I went to Jinling last year, I wanted to visit the ruins of the 6 dynasties, and that day I entered Shituchen and passed in front of his house, which was the Ningguo mansion to the east and the Rongguo mansion to the west. Although there was no one outside the gate, a look through the fence, inside the hall and the tower, but also the elegant and noble, even in the back of the garden, trees and rocks, but also the green and blossoming air, it does not look like a decaying house? Zixing laughed and said, you are a scholar. I don't understand. As the old saying goes, a 100-footed worm does not die rigidly. Although it is not as prosperous as it was in the previous years, it has a different atmosphere than the ordinary house of an official. Nowadays, the population is growing and business is flourishing, and all the servants are wealthy and honored. The day-to-day use of the place, and cannot be thrifty. Now, although the outside frame has not yet fallen, the inner bag is also exhausted. This is also a small thing, but there is a big thing. Who knows that the children and grandchildren of such a family are not as good as the next generation? Yu Kun said, how can such a poetic family not be well educated? I don't know about other families, but the two houses in Ning and Rong are the most well educated, so why is this so? Zixing sighed, I am talking about these two houses. Let me tell you, the Duke of Ning and the Duke of Rong were two brothers from the same mother. The Duke of Ning was the eldest and had 2 sons. After the death of Lord Ning, the eldest son Jiadewa assaulted the official, also raised 2 sons. The first son, named Jiashiku, died at the age of 8 or 9. Only a second son, Jiajing, left, assuming the official, now a good way, only love to burn pills and mercury, and do not care about anything else. Fortunately, he left behind a son named Jiazhen. Because his father was determined to become a god, the official let him assault. His father refused to live at home, but only outside the city and those Taoist priests Huo. This grandfather Zhen also gave birth to a son, this year is only 16 years old, named Jirong. Now the old man Jing does not care anymore. How can he do anything serious? Only a taste of happiness cannot, the Ningguo house even overturned, and no one dared to control him. And then you listen to the Wing house, the strange things said in the spring is here. Since the death of the Ronggong, the eldest son Jiadai Shan assaulted the official, married to the wife of the family of Shi Hojinling Shi, had 2 sons, the eldest named Jia Pardon, the second named Jia Zheng. Now Dai Shan has long since died, the wife is still alive. The eldest son Jia Amnesty assaulted the official, but also in the person, and do not manage family affairs. But the second son Jia Zheng, since childhood, loved to study, honest and upright people, grandfather loved, originally wanted him from the subject A origin, unexpectedly Dai Shan dying, the remains of a book on the emperor's sympathy for his predecessor, that the eldest son assaulted the official, and asked how many sons, immediately cited, and the political grandfather was given an additional master title, told him to study in the ministry, and now has been promoted to the staff. The wife of this political grandfather Wang, the firstborn son named Jiazhu, 14 years old to study, later married, had a son, less than 20 years old, a disease died. The second child was born a young lady, born on the first day of the year. It is strange. I didn't want to give birth to a son a dozen years later, and it was even more strange. As soon as the twins fell, a piece of colorful crystal jade came out of his mouth, and there were many inscriptions. Do you think it is news?